project came about really on the back of doing just some work talking to children about just generally, what do they think about law? If you say to children law, then what comes into their minds? And the kind of things they were saying was that like law is scary, that it's about not doing things, it's about stopping you doing things. Really, as a lawyer, I know that knowing law makes you strong. So law is a good thing, it protects you and it empowers you. So I wanted to do some more work with children to really investigate a bit more about whether they really had any understanding of law as making them strong, as opposed to law really stopping them from doing things. So I wanted to really start with children and start with their everyday lives, what they think about things. Do they realise that law has got to do with everything that they do? So going to school is a legal issue, things that happen to them at home are even legal issues.
It's really important for children to be involved in projects that are to do with children. And that's partly because it's their right to be involved, so that's a starting point that we came from, about the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, that children have the right to be asked about things that are important to them. But actually, it makes for a better project. It's a win-win situation if children are involved. It creates better resources and it gives us better information about what children are experiencing.
So I thought, well, wouldn't it be like cool if you could just like play on something, and whilst you're playing, it would be maybe telling you something about what you know, or maybe you could find out things while you're playing the game. But then I thought, well, before we start to kind of think about building a game, which is something we still want to do, that helps you learn about law, we want to talk to children first to find out where they're at, so we know really where we're starting from.
And we went into schools and we worked with children from years 4, 5 and 6, and we asked them questions about the type of games they play, the things they liked about the games they play, as well as the things they didn't like. That was useful, gave us an idea for the kind of things we wanted to have in our game. We also talked to them about their lives and the things they do in their day-to-day lives. This gave us ideas about the things they do on their own, the amount of independence they have and the places that they go to. This helped us to create the worlds within the game. So we had the park, the shop, a friend's house and of course school.
My favourite part was that there wasn't just one place you had to go to, there was lots of different places and they had different questions you were being asked.
When Effie and I were first talking about how we might design the game or how the gaming might work with children, first of all imagined that children would sit down kind of in pairs and play the game and that we would be recording their conversation. But then we thought, well, we want it to be a really natural environment, so we'd do this in the classroom. Then obviously if you've got 30 children all talking in the classroom, then the game is not going to pick up the audio. So we decided that it would be better if the children each had a tablet and were recording into the game, but then we had to have a reason for them to be talking to the game. And so I went to talk to the National Children's Bureau Young Research Group and told them about all of this, and they said with regard to a game, well, you know, will it have an alien? And that's what gave us the idea, well, why don't we have an alien in the game who arrives from outer space and says, hey, show me around, and then the child can be talking to the alien and explaining the choices that they make and the reasons behind those choices. Things happen and then the children have to navigate their way through, either by like tapping or drag and drop or choosing options, sliding scale, lots of different things they do. And then sometimes they'll make a choice and then Lex pops up and says, well, why did you say that? Why do you think that? And so at this point the children are wearing a headset and they press record and they tell Lex the reason that they made that choice. When you look at children with games, generally they seem to really know what they're doing with games, much more than adults. So I thought it'd be nice to flip the whole research thing upside down. So normally we would go in as the experts asking people what they think, whereas really children seem to be much more expert in gaming. So it would be going really onto their territory.
I liked Lex, he was very friendly, and I liked that he was interested in our laws, because wherever he comes from, his laws would be different. And it's like he's a child and you're the teacher now.
So when we first went to the classroom, so there was a lot of noise as you expected, so bubbly, and we talk about excited about the game. But once they turned on the game, they were so excited, they were really totally absorbed by the game, and it was silent. So it was really interesting. It's like the contrast before they turn on the game, after they turn on the game.
I found the game really fun, and I like the
concept of showing an alien around your world and talking about the laws.
The ESRC had a fund that you could apply to, and they would fund research that they called transformative research. So it could be a little bit risky, but it's research that had potential to change things a bit. And so the project fitted quite well into that category, and I was really fortunate that they funded not only me to do the work, but we've had a whole team. So we've had 4 of us working on the project, all from different backgrounds.
We asked children a question about what would happen if there was a school trip where only boys were allowed, and was this okay? Now, on the positive side, almost all children said this wasn't okay, that actually it wasn't fair for girls not to be able to do something that boys could do. But what was interesting was that no children framed this in terms of children's rights. Although a few children said that girls had the right to be treated the same as boys, the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child is something that professionals talk about all the time when it comes to children and their rights, but children don't know about it and don't talk in those terms.
About 65% of children said that if they went into a shop and they weren't given any change, then they would just ask for their change back, which I was really pleased about. So we can see from that in certain situations children feel confident about dealing with legal problems or legally relevant problems. But interestingly, when they were in the park and there was a broken park, we asked them what they would do about that. And this was one thing in which, whilst they knew, lots of them knew that councils are responsible for parks in the area, they really thought that this was an adult responsibility. This was something that only about 8% of children thought that they would do something about themselves. So we can see that there are some situations where children feel really confident about dealing with things on their own, where it's kind of a good idea to do that. But in other situations, they really feel that this is an adult who should be dealing with that situation.
Children really valued being asked their views. They valued being part of the game design process. So the children who were in the focus groups really loved being part of that process, and they loved seeing the game that they'd created, and they were very proud of the game that they'd created.
We had the meeting right at the start, and I liked being able to help out with the game.
We found out quite a lot from children about their perceptions of the police. But one thing that we have found quite worrying is that when we asked children, well, are the police allowed to hit children? 16% of children said yes, the police are allowed to hit them. And 23% of the children said that they weren't sure whether the police are allowed to hit children. So that means for about 4 in 10 children, either they're not sure whether the police can hit children, or they think, yeah, they can, which is a real concern for us.
So they want the game to be longer and more situations, then they can really explore more about the game.
So looking generally across all the things that the children have told us in the game, as they've answered all of our questions and navigated all of the scenarios, is that there's a general view that adults can fix pretty much anything for you, that adults are competent to deal with situations, they can solve problems and they can fix things for children, which in most situations is great. You know, we want children to have confidence in adults, but it does make us concerned for those children who maybe don't have an adult who is playing that role in their life, or perhaps not playing a role like that all of the time.
It's been a real honour and privilege to work with the Leicester University team, and the work they've done has been absolutely excellent. And I'm very grateful, speaking both as a head teacher but also as a dad, for the kind of impact that this game can have with our young people.
It's all about learning the laws and how children should learn the laws and have fun doing it too at the same time.
The ultimate aim of the project is to make a really cool game that children can access themselves, and it will help them to find out about law, but mostly it will help them to find out about law as making them strong in their everyday lives.